to open it. And this one is already assembled. I assembled it off camera. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today's video we're going to be taking a look at two portable wood pellet stoves coming from Green Stove. We have the Hori 5 and the newly released Hori 5 Max. So let's get right into it. Okay, so before we get into the new stove, let's talk about the Hori 5 Original from Green Stove. This is a wood pellet burning stove. It is also a wood burning stove. So it's actually a multi-fuel stove. So what we've got going on here, this is used. I've used it quite a bit, obviously. And there is one change, this little eyelet. You will not have that on your Hori 5 or Hori 5 Max. I welded that on there and I'll explain that in a little bit. So what we've got here is the stove without the pellet hopper. The oven is down below. This is where you put your food in. This is also where you would load the wood in when switching to wood burning mode, and I'll explain that in a little bit. It does come with this interesting tool. It is a fire poker, but it's actually a tool that corresponds with the stove parts. Even the rear has these little teeth where you can actually pull out the ash pan from the rear. And like I said, we'll be spinning these around, having a really close look at it. This shelf is removable. It comes off, sometimes easily, sometimes not. Pull that off there. So these shelves can be taken off. They also spin around for traveling. So when you pack the stove up, you can spin it around, travel. I like using this primarily for putting my hot pot or pan off of the wood stove when I'm cooking. You can hang gloves and things from there as well. The front of the stove opens. The little latch there, you have to move the door out of the way. So this does open. When you get your Hori 5, your stovepipes and everything will just be crammed in there. This is basically the burn chamber of the fire. So the fire is going to burn in the basket for the pellets. It's going to come up. It's going to go around a wall. It's going to come back to the stovepipe on the adjacent side, meaning the entire top of the stove gets even heating. You get a beautiful display window here, the fire doing its thing. And yeah, it works really, really well. Oven works really well. Spin the stove around. We have the back entrance here, and this is where the tool corresponds with these two little tabs. Put it in there, pull it out. This is the box where all the burned pellets are going to fall into after burning in the hopper. When you switch over to wood burning mode, this actually folds down, creating a longer channel where you can actually load wood in. The wood smoke would then travel up and in through there and kind of just work its way in the stove. This part comes off. This is the hopper for the pellets. This actually comes off, and there is a steel plate that comes with the stove that will go right on top, locking in, sealing the whole stove, solid metal, just like a normal wood stove. And this basically blocks the smoke from burning wood to go out the stove. Now we're going to be burning pellets today, so we'll load the hopper back in, and it simply locks in a position, and then these little teeth lock it in and hold it. We'll put the back pan back in, folding this piece up. Like I said, the stove has been used, so it's fairly dirty, and it works like a champ. Slide that back in there, swing the locking tabs. The legs are folding, so they actually can be folded up to be packed away for carrying, which is a nice added feature. There's two carrying handles on this, front and rear. Yes, the stovepipe totally comes off. I'm not going to take it off today, and I am running titanium pipe coming out of a steel pipe. These stoves only come with steel pipes as of right now. So that is the Hori 5 in a really, really quick look. Let's switch over to the Hori 5 Max and show you some of the pieces and how these things go together. Alright, so having a look at the new Hori 5 Max. They do come in this very nice kind of fake leather bag. Two zippers on it, and this makes unpacking and carrying very, very easy. Undo the Velcro, flip it open, and we've got the Hori 5 Max. So the differences between the Hori 5 and the Hori 5 Max. Right off the bat, I will mention these fins on the outer wall stop the stove from deforming. The smaller Hori 5 that I have I have not had any deformation in the metal at all. So a little bit more surface area to stop from deforming. These also bring in cold air and push out hot air. It works like an air kind of siphon exchange unit, which will actually heat the air in the tent or in the shed or in the whatever building you put this in a little bit more efficiently, and just adds to the design. The other main difference is max. It's a little bit bigger. So this is a tiny bit bigger. Dimensions, I'll give you the dimensions in a little bit. Little bit larger doors, larger oven, larger hopper, and it's just a bigger stove. So let's get this out of the bag, get it set up, and have a close look at it. All right, so we've got the Hori 5 Max, the Hori 5. So let's take a look at unpacking, setting up, and going through the stove, because this is brand new. I've never used it before. So right off the bat, let's open up the oven. We've got the Green Stove brochure. Loads of their options and other products are in there. We have what I did is pre-assembled this. Very simple, just 3 pieces go inside of each other. This is the pellet hopper feeder unit. It fits in the oven, so why not put it away in one large piece. We then have a accessory there to block off the pellets. Close the oven up. We then spin to the front. Open up this door here, move that pan out of the way. Inside the stove, I put in the elbow pipe. I don't know how they get everything in the stove, but there were a ton of pipes and pieces and everything was in here. Very good packing. I don't know how they do it. So I only put a couple pieces back inside of it. And the important ones being the tool. Inside of the damper piece, this is the damper pipe. Has a little knob on there. And this is all steel, no titanium. We'll close that door back up, and we might as well turn this tray around while we're here. It just spins around just like that. We can then unfold the legs. They're stowed underneath. Simply fold those out. There are 4 folding legs here. The stove is a little bit heavier than the other, not by much. I believe this one is coming in at 36 or 37 pounds. I'm not going to put a full list of the specs in this video, as I actually want to focus on the workings of the stove, the performance of the stove. But like I said earlier, I will give you the measurements of this. So now that we've got the stove and the legs put together, the hopper unit that I've already pre-assembled simply slides in the top. There is a metal plate, as mentioned earlier, still wrapped in plastic because I don't intend on using it. This metal plate literally goes on top, blocking off that from letting smoke inside the tent when you want to burn wood. I'm not going to be burning wood, so I'm not going to use it. Pellet hopper feed unit, we just drop that in there, slide it forwards, lock it in, and that is the feed unit. Turn the stove around. It does have this pipe stabilizer, which is actually a really interesting piece because it just clicks on the back. There's a little thumb screw here that locks it in. And once you get it locked in, it just kind of sits there. It stabilizes the pipe going in and out. Take your damper unit and connect there to finalize that little piece that basically gives it stability so the pipe's not going to bend or break off when it gets hot. Very, very interesting unit there. The back, again, this little tool, we can unfold it. Little teeth on there, kind of go in the back of the box. Pull out the ash pan. This will be full of burnt pellets. Place it back in. Lock the tabs. And yeah, you're good to burn. So obviously you guys can see the stove is a little bit bigger. We'll come in with a closer look at the stove and the workings, the size comparisons. But before we do that, I want to talk about the hopper. This one is already assembled. I assembled it off camera, but I will show you how to do it with the Hori 5. Basically, we've got this unit and a little thumb screw. Set that on top. Turn the thumb screw on. There is an additional piece to this. And you can get upgrades for this to make the box even taller to hold more pellets. That's for longer burn time. We've got the box here. This just goes right on top. Locking in. I'll lock that in a little bit more when I stand up. And then the lid. These air holes are actually really important for the proper burn of the stove. And basically fill your hopper, put the lid on, light the stove, and you're good to go. So just going to slide the Max a little bit back so you guys can have a better representation of the side-by-side view. Again, with this hopper, it comes off and it just simply drops on top. Once you get it placed on there properly, it will not fall off. It's on there actually really secure. Lock that thumb screw, put the lid on top, and there you go. So you guys can see the Max is quite noticeably bigger, but in actual dimensions it's really not that much bigger. The stove, or the oven itself, is very large on the Max. On the Hori 5, it's not so big. This will hold a lot more wood if you do want to turn this into wood burning mode. This one does not. This one has a larger glass viewing window. This one has a smaller viewing window. It's dirty right now, that will clean off as we burn. Just a little differences here and there. The actual feeding unit is, I think they're the same size. I haven't tried to take them off, but I'm pretty sure they're the same size. Basically the same stove, just bigger. So I'm interested to see how this is going to perform, and we will see that in just a moment, but I just want to touch on the key differences here. Now, talking about the hopper system, let's go ahead and assemble this. So this is for the Hori 5. It is a little bit smaller. It can be finicky for your first time. You just want to line up the little slots and spin the latch. We'll do this in real time together, just because I know some people are going to say, oh, that's really finicky and that's going to take a long time. It really doesn't. It just clicks together. If you have cold hands, this is going to be a problem. So I often, if I'm traveling with my vehicle with the stove, and let's face it, you're not going to be backpacking in with this. So when traveling with a vehicle, I actually leave the hopper already assembled. I carry a bin full of wood pellets, and I carry a bin full of accessories for the stove. And I just leave this assembled in the two main pieces. And that way when I arrive at the camp, I just pull this out of a protected bin, grab it, put it on top of the stove, fill it full of pellets, and good to go. So that was, what, 10 seconds to set that up? That's the bottom unit. And then you assemble the top unit, which we might as well do right now as well. And then you put the lid on. Now, like I said, this hopper is a little bit smaller on this stove than the Hori 5 Max. The actual capacity, I'm not sure of, but we will fill it up with 1 scoop of pellets each, and we'll have a look at what that's going to do and how long it will burn for, because I know everyone's going to ask, how long do they burn for? I personally filmed the video with the Hori 5 last winter, and I went 11 hours overnight with a full hopper, and it just ran out in the morning when I woke up. So that's a long burn time with hardwood pellets. If you're using a mix of hardwood and softwood pellets, obviously you're going to have a different burn time and also different heat output. I will mention that I had the stove on the lowest setting, and I was in a 2-person tent, and the tent was very, 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 very warm. It was about minus 18 degrees Celsius outside on this particular trip. It was windy, and the stove burned all night long, keeping me very, very warm. 2 pieces assembled. We then slide that on top, lock the thumb screw in there, take the top piece, slide it on top of there, and then add the lid to it and fill full of pellets and light the stove. So that's what we're going to do next. We're going to take a really quick measurement, and then we're going to fill it full of pellets and ignite it. Okay, so we're going to do quick measurements here. I'm going to go for the width of the stoves first, and the Hori 5 Max is coming in at 8 inches. The Hori 5 is coming in at 7 1/8, so a little bit narrower there. The length, overall length of the stove, that looks 17.5 inches. The length of the Hori 5 is about close to 15. It's 14 3/4, very, very close. The height of the actual stove body is 11. The height is 13 1/4. Now from the ground to the top of the cook surface, 17.5, 15. To the ground, to the very top of the hopper, 37 inches, 33 1/4. That is a very important measurement, because a lot of people talk about smaller tents. You need room to get the hopper in your tent and just clearance and all of that. Let's do the overall length from the back of the stovepipe to the front of the tray. That'll be your overall length of protruding matter off the stove. And it looks like we're at 30.5 inches. This stove, it looks like we are 27 inches. The oven, the actual oven opening. Well, we have an opening of 12.5 inches. The other oven, this Hori 5, we have an opening significantly smaller, coming in at 9 3/4 inches. The height of the oven opening is 4.5 inches. We are at 5 1/8 inches. So a large cooking area, a smaller cooking area. This has one latch. This has two latches. They both have thermometer gauges on there, so you can tell the temperature of your stove or your oven, how hot it's burning. And I think that pretty much does it. We will take a measurement of the hopper, and that will be the last measurement. I think that pretty much does it. So we have 7.5. We have 6 3/4. We have 12 1/4 inches, it looks like. Here we have 9 3/4 inches. And the overall height of the hopper, right when it hits the feed unit, this one's looking at 12.5 inches. And this one is looking at 14 inches. So, big differences in the measurements, but realistically the overall size is not that much larger. Let's load some pellets in and talk about a couple of features while we light these stoves. All right, so I have a bin of hardwood pellets. I'm not sure of the size of these. They're roughly 1 inch in length, the majority of them. The diameter is looking like maybe 4 millimeters. I've loaded all kinds of different brands of pellets in this stove. It worked totally fine. So we're gonna put the same amount. I'm just gonna take this bowl and right to the top, dump it in. Same thing with the Hori 5 Max, dump it in. Both primed and ready to go. Now, to ignite these stoves, you do need a torch. So, let's go through the lighting process with these, because it is very important to follow a couple of things. There is a draft on the front of both wood stoves. This is basically how you let air inside of the stove when you burn wood. We are not burning wood, so this must be shut all the time when burning pellets. This will not make the stove burn better. It will actually make it burn worse. It's on both of the stoves, and it actually is engraved in the metal. It says keep damper closed when burning pellets. This front door, you also want to remain closed when burning pellets. There is an additional accessory that can go on here, and basically it replaces the door and it turns it into a water jacket. So it's a tank full of water with a little spigot you can put on there. Different accessories, so check out their website. But this needs to remain shut. The draft needs to remain shut. The oven you can open, obviously, to put food in there and whatnot, but just a couple things to look out for. So we are going to turn the stoves on maximum to get them going. How we do that? Well, you'll notice on this stove there's an eyelet. I welded that on there on purpose because now I can actually loosen that off. It doesn't want to move right now because it's full of pellets, but once we get it burning, it will move. This one moves because it's new and it's not corroded and kind of gunked up. But you'll notice that it's just a tiny little knob. Once we get the stoves burning, I'll show you why that tiny little knob needs a larger handle on it, because the only way to increase the burn rate, to pull the gate up out of that pellet trap to allow more fire, is to loosen it off and lift it up or lift it down. Well, with this tiny little knob, even with a pair of gloves, you're melting and singeing your hand, and it is super aggravating. And I don't know why they put the little tiny knob there, but I will be welding on an eyelet on this one as well, just so it could slide up and down a little easier. Lock it in place. Done. So there is a little hole in the back of these stoves. I will bring you guys in closer, show you that, and we'll jam the torch in there and light the stove. So coming in really close, looking at this knob that I was talking about, loosening it off, lift it up for maximum burn, loosen it and push it down for minimum burn. It won't go down right now because the pellets are in the way. As it burns, if this is loosened off, it'll go down to its minimum. At that point, you can then lift it up to its maximum burn rate and increase the heat and the fire in the stove. If you guys look really close inside, you'll see the pellets in the burn basket. The gate that I've been manipulating up and down, you'll see it can't go down anymore because it's full of pellets. But as the pellets burn out, this gate will slide down and then you can lift it back up to increase the burn. On the Hori 5, this is the knob that I welded on, basically giving me more surface area to lift up, push down, and lock it in place, because keep in mind, you have to manipulate this tiny little screw and pull it up and hold it where you need it and tighten it. It just makes it really, really difficult, and you get burned a lot trying to do that. Coming to the rear of the Hori 5, you'll notice this little gate. This needs to be pushed open. This is the hole where you'll put your torch, light the pellets. Once they catch, you will then shut that and the stove will be burning. Okay, so I've got my torch here. We're now going to ignite this, put it in the rear of the stove, and light the pellets. Very simple. Literally hold it there for a minute or two and just kind of watch. You'll see the smoke billowing. Pellets usually light fairly quick, but you do really want to get them smoldering quite a bit before you shut that gate. And just make sure that they're burning. This is kind of the time process of the stove, and it does limit you on lighting it because you can't light it with a lighter, you can't light it with a fire starter, you can't light it with a match. You need a torch to put in the hole, which means you need a propane bottle or a butane bottle, some kind of torch. Now you'll notice there's smoke billowing out of the stove. This is totally normal during the lighting process, so keep that in mind. If you're indoors or in a tent, open the doors and just let it catch. Once it catches, like I said, you can shut the door. It looks like we've got a little bit of embers burning in there right now. So I'm going to pull the torch out, shut the gate, and let it start. Sometimes a slow process. It might take 2 or 3 minutes. You guys will notice, like I said, the smoke is crazy at lighting these stoves. Once it starts creating a draw through the pipe, it'll then take off and the flames will just shoot forwards and get very, very nice and warm quickly. Alright guys, so both stoves are burning really nice and stable right now for about 10 minutes. The new stove is still burning off a lot of surface oil from the manufacturing process. That's why I'm burning this first time outside. The other stove is already seasoned and ready to go, but one thing I will mention, the benefit of burning wood pellets. There is no smoke coming out of the chimneys. It is total stable heat. It'll burn non-stop. You can leave your tent, your cabin, whatever. It will continue to burn as long as the hopper's full, obviously. And it makes cooking and doing things really, really easy to have a stable heat source instead of the roller coaster ride with wood stove, hot and then cold and then hot and cold. This, you could set it to a temperature and leave it and it'll just continuously burn. Alright, so now that these are both pumping out a ton of heat, I will mention this little knob on top. Right now, it's almost at the bottom of the channel, meaning the stove is almost at its minimum burning temperature. Well, you guys can see there's not a lot of room to move in there, and you gotta spin it quickly, and it just fell. Gravity made it fall. That gate came down. Now there's only about 2 inches of available burn pellets, as opposed to roughly about 3.5, 4 inches when it's open to max. The problem is, heat is rising. All of this is very, very hot, and it's only been burning for about 15 minutes right now. It's still going to continue to get way hotter than that. I'm already burning my gloves and singeing them, trying to turn that knob. To get it to go up to max, you have to lift it and then hold it and turn at the same time. Well, that's very difficult to lift it up, hold it, and spin it without it sliding back down or burning your hands. So that's the reason why I welded on that eyelet on the Hori 5, and I'll be doing the same mod to this stove just so I have a little bit of a larger knob to turn, pull, and lock it back in. So coming over to the Hori 5, you guys will notice the basket is already down to its lowest setting. I can then yank that up and screw it in. Now it's locked to its maximum setting. More pellets are visible. The flame is going to get really big and start heating up a lot more. If I want to lower it, all I do is simply let it slide down. Of course, the pellets are in the way now. It's going to crush them, but we got it down to halfway right there. Back up the full, lock it in, and burn it really nice and hot, making this really easy to manipulate. All right, so now that we've got that stove to max, we've got to get this stove to max. It doesn't have the knob welded on, so we have to pull it up with a tool. Oh, it got stuck. Okay. We got lucky there. It actually got stuck, but I still have to hold it. No, it's falling. This is finicky. This is not fun. Okay, there we go. Okay. Managed to get that tightened up. Now the gate is all the way up, burning maximum, burning maximum. These are throwing a ton of heat, but you guys can see with that little modification, definitely needed to operate that little knob. Okay, so both the Hori 5 and the Hori 5 Max operate with this tool, as I was mentioning earlier. The Hori 5 Max has 2 latches on the oven. The Hori 5 only has the 1. Simply place that in there to open it. And this is how you're going to open your oven door. There's a little bit of smoke that's going to come out. I'm doing this on purpose because there's still oil in the oven that needs to be burned out before I can cook in there. But this will give you an idea. I mean, that is toasty, toasty warm in there. The Hori 5 is a little bit smaller, but they both will fit a load of food in there for at least 1 person and 2 people with the Hori 5 Max for sure. You can get a casserole dish in there with some chicken maybe, do up something. And yeah, it works great for warming your gloves too if you place them in there and just keep a really, really close eye on them. Coming over to the Hori 5, we are at almost 200 degrees Fahrenheit. As mentioned earlier, just the 1 latch open, and you can see there's no smoke coming out of this one because all the oil has been burned off of it from manufacturing. And yeah, it makes a great spot just to get in like a little plate of nachos, warm your gloves, cook anything you can get creative with, and just have some fun with it. Works really, really easy. You can open this with your hand if you really want to with a pair of gloves, but the tool just makes way more sense. All right, and before I forget to mention this, these stoves are different pipe size diameter. The Hori 5, I believe, is a 2.31, 2.39 standard for a small stove, inner diameter stovepipe. This is coming in at almost 3 inches. I think it's about 2.6 inches, what they call it. So definitely a different diameter of pipe size, being a larger stove. It'll be interesting testing these out on a camping trip to see what the larger diameter does. It let more air in, higher burn rate, because realistically these pellet feed units are actually interchangeable. They're the same size. So the only difference between the stove is the box size and the pipe diameter size. Other than that, the burn chamber, the burn unit, the feed unit, they're the same. So it can only burn pellets at a certain rate, and I think the larger pipe and the larger box is going to allow more air to go through faster, which will then heat up a lot faster. and heat a larger area is my thought process on that. But sitting here, it is definitely warm. I can feel the heat at my back. My face is roasting. These things are incredible. Like I said, I used the Hori 5 on many trips last year out camping. Very, very cold temperatures. And it was a treat not having to look for firewood, not having to split it, not having to get in the tent, dry it out, and take up all the room, not having to feed the stove, go out on the ice of a frozen lake, and then come back and throw some wood in there and go back to doing what you were doing. Just load the hopper and let it do its thing. And the bonus is it'll burn all night at a set temperature. Like I said, raising or lowering that gate will increase or decrease the burn rate. And it just makes it really, really enjoyable to just have steady heat and not have to worry about anything. Of course, if you're into that. So these are definitely going to be getting used in my camping videos and in the off-grid property. You'll see me using these a lot more. I just wanted to touch in and one, get this tested, and two, go over some of the differences and explain some things to you guys if you guys are not aware of the Hori 5 pellet stoves. And that's basically it, guys. I'm going to let these burn out. I only filled the feed unit. I actually didn't fill the hopper. And this one is basically empty. So it's been burning for about 40 minutes to an hour, really close to an hour. So just that little bit, just that little bowl of pellets I put in there is going, looks like it's going to be about 2 hours because it still has to burn out and get it all the way out of the sending unit. When it does burn out, this little gate back here, forgot to mention, this is gravity operated. When the pellets go in, this gate opens and that's the air inlet. Well, when there's no more pellets in there, there's no more gravity pushing down on the tab, this automatically shuts and that stops the stove. It also stops the stove from backdrafting smoke inside of your tent. So this is an automatic air inlet. It works totally automatically, and it's a great feature on both stoves. It works really, really well. So I'm going to wrap this up. Any questions or comments, drop them down below. Be sure to check out Green Stove's website for more information, more specs, and all that fun stuff. And hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next one.